I never imagined my own blood would turn their backs on me. Not over something so petty, so ridiculous. But when my family cut me off without warning, I did what anyone would do. I cried, I begged, and then I snapped. You know that moment when you realize you're finally done being the family doormat? Yeah. That moment changed everything. And trust me, they never saw this coming. I'm Ashley. I'm 29. The quiet one. That's what they've always called me in my family. Not as an insult exactly, more like an observation that settled into a label over time. I was the one who never shouted over anyone else at the dinner table, who didn't compete for attention during family game nights, who never slammed doors or made drama just to be heard. I guess, somewhere along the way, they mistook silence for simplicity. Maybe even weakness. My family. We were loud. Loving, in their way. Messy. Emotionally over the top. We weren't perfect, God, we were far from it, but I thought we were close enough. That was always enough for me. Growing up, our house was a blur of voices. Mom humming in the kitchen, the TV blaring 2 rooms away. Megan, my sister, stomping down the stairs yelling about how someone stole her charger again. Dad talking over everyone at dinner just to make his point, and the cousins giggling during sleepovers until 2 a.m. I used to think that kind of chaos was normal. That kind of chaos meant love. And maybe for a while it did. Even after I moved out and started building my own life, we still had our little rituals. Sunday dinners, like clockwork, rotating between everyone's homes. Birthday texts sent at 12:01 a.m., because it was a weird unspoken tradition to be first. Group chats that went off at all hours with memes, old inside jokes, and random remember when photos that always made me laugh harder than I wanted to admit. They knew me. Or at least, I thought they did. Until it all stopped. It didn't happen in one dramatic explosion. There wasn't a screaming match, no fiery confrontation. That would have almost made it easier, at least then I'd know what line I'd crossed. Instead, it was a slow, quiet suffocation. The kind that sneaks up on you until you're suddenly gasping, wondering when the air disappeared. It started with a missed call. Then 2. Then Megan didn't respond to my happy birthday text, which she never misses. She didn't even open it. I remember staring at my phone screen that night, lying in bed, the soft hum of the AC the only sound in my apartment. I stared so long at that delivered notification that my eyes blurred. Maybe she's just busy, I told myself. Then I noticed I hadn't been tagged in any recent family posts. Strange. Usually someone posted a throwback every week, especially Mom. She was obsessed with Facebook. But suddenly, silence. Not a single tag, not a single like. The family group chat, which usually buzzed like a beehive on caffeine, had been dead for weeks. I sent a meme, nothing. I asked a question, nothing. I posted a funny throwback from when Megan accidentally dyed her hair green in high school. Not even a LOL. I tried calling. Voicemail. Texted Dad. Left him a voice message. Hey, just checking in. Haven't heard from anyone in a bit. Is everything okay? No reply. I thought maybe I was overreacting. Maybe life had just gotten busy. People pull away sometimes. But I couldn't shake the cold twist in my gut. That quiet whisper in my head that said, something's wrong. The real gut punch came in December. I remember because it was the first snow of the season, the kind that made everything outside look like it had been dusted with powdered sugar. I was in my kitchen, cinnamon-scented candle burning, Christmas music humming low from my speaker. I just finished decorating my tiny artificial tree, solo of course, and made some hot cocoa like I always did. I felt that small flicker of warmth, like maybe I could still have a little holiday magic on my own. Maybe I'd wake up to a package from Mom or a silly 12 Days of Christmas meme from the cousins. Then I checked the mail. Nothing. Not even a Christmas card. And that was the moment it hit me like ice water down my back. They'd always sent a card. Even the year I was in a hospital bed, recovering from surgery, and couldn't make it to the annual cookie swap. Even the year Mom and Megan had that massive falling out over a burnt ham and didn't speak for a month, they still sent the card. But this year? Not even a generic hallmark with a half-hearted love, the Thompsons. I just stood there, envelopeless, fingers cold from the mailbox handle, as snow melted into my sleeves. My breath came out in shaky clouds, but it wasn't from the cold. I felt hollow. Did I do something? Had I offended someone? Had I missed a birthday or said something out of turn in the chat? Had I not been enough for too long, and they'd finally stopped pretending I mattered? I racked my brain for days. Played every recent conversation in my mind like a broken record. Maybe I didn't respond fast enough when Mom sent that photo of the grandkids. Maybe I shouldn't have bailed on the last Sunday dinner, even though I had a migraine and could barely sit upright. Maybe I shouldn't have missed Emily's wedding. That thought struck a chord. It was the only major event I'd missed recently, and I hadn't skipped it lightly. I'd been scheduled to present a year's worth of work to the board of directors at my company that same weekend. It was the kind of opportunity that could change the entire course of my career. A once-in-a-decade moment. I remember the pit in my stomach when I RSVP'd no. I'd sent Emily a heartfelt message explaining why. I even shipped a personalized gift and a handwritten card a week early. I honestly thought she'd understand. Apparently, I was wrong. The silence felt like punishment. But the worst part? The part that kept me up most nights, lying on my side in a dark bedroom, watching headlights flash across my ceiling like ghosts? I didn't know for sure. They hadn't said a word. Not "we're mad at you." Not "you hurt us." Not "you chose work over family." Nothing. It was like I had disappeared. Like they'd erased me. No confrontation. No explanation. Just silence. It made me question everything I knew about myself. Was I that easy to forget? That disposable? I didn't even feel anger at first. Just confusion. Hurt. Deep, bone-level sadness that crept into everything I did. I started waking up later, ignoring messages from friends. I stopped playing music in the mornings. Stopped cooking real meals. I couldn't bring myself to scroll through old photos or watch home videos. It all felt like watching someone else's life, a life I used to belong to. I thought maybe time would fix it. But time only deepened the distance. Hardened it into something solid. Something permanent. And every day, I woke up with that same question burning a hole in my heart. What did I do wrong? But I was about to find out. In the worst possible way. It all started after my cousin Emily's wedding. I still remember the day I opened her wedding invitation. Pale lavender envelope. Gold script that read Emily and Jake forever. The kind of invitation that smelled faintly like floral perfume and pressure. I stood in my kitchen, sunlight pouring through the window, holding it between my fingers like it was fragile. Like it might break if I breathed too hard. August 12th, it said. That date punched a hole straight through my chest. Because August 12th was the day. The one I'd been working toward for over a year. My company's national conference, where I was scheduled to pitch a campaign to executives and investors that could determine whether I'd get promoted to regional director. I was leading the team. I couldn't delegate it. I couldn't move it. And I couldn't say no. I felt sick. Torn in two. On one hand, Emily and I had grown up practically glued at the hip. She was the closest thing I had to a sister outside my actual sister. We shared Pop-Tarts and boy band posters, laughed until we cried over sleepover dares, and she was the first person I told when I got my first kiss in 9th grade. On the other hand, this was my career. My future. The kind of moment people work their whole lives for. A seat at the table I'd clawed my way toward while juggling part-time jobs, night classes, and years of being the quiet one in a room full of louder voices. I thought long and hard. I even tried to reschedule the pitch. I pulled strings. Sent emails. Pleaded. But the date was locked. Non-negotiable. So I did what I thought was the next best thing. I called Emily. She didn't answer, understandable with all the wedding chaos, but I left a voicemail. My voice cracked a little when I said, "I'm so proud of you. I wish I could be there more than anything." Then I sent a text explaining everything. I followed it up with a gift from her registry and a second, personalized gift I knew she'd love, a vintage bracelet just like the one our grandmother used to wear. I included a handwritten card, 2 pages front and back, where I told her how much she meant to me. I even added, "I'll be cheering for you on the 12th, no matter where I am." And then I waited. I thought she'd understand. I thought they all would. I mean, this wasn't me flaking for no reason. It wasn't a beach trip or a Tinder date. This was work. This was my livelihood. And they'd always said they were proud of my ambition, especially Mom. She used to say I was the one who'd get out when everyone else stayed put. But apparently, ambition has limits in my family. Apparently, choosing a conference over a wedding, even once, makes you a traitor. The silence started a week later. I noticed it in small, uncomfortable moments, like the way you notice a bruise forming under your skin before it turns purple. I texted Emily to ask how the honeymoon was. Nothing. I told myself she was just busy. Then I posted a photo of myself from the conference, standing in front of the huge event banner, holding my presentation notes. I smiled in it, proud, wearing my favorite navy blazer. I remember thinking, this was the happiest I've felt in months. No likes. No comments. Not even from Megan, who always hearts my photos, even the dumb ones. Then, a few days later, I opened Facebook and saw it. Or rather, didn't see it. The family group was gone. Poof. Vanished like it never existed. I refreshed the page again and again, thinking it was a glitch. Then I checked Mom's profile. You cannot view this profile. Blocked. By my own mother. I sat there, blinking, not fully able to comprehend what I was seeing. My heart thumped so loud in my ears I could barely hear the outside world. The air around me felt heavy, like a storm cloud settling in my chest. My fingers hovered over the screen, trembling. No. No, no, no. There's no way this is real. This has to be some kind of mistake. I called Megan. Voicemail. I called her again. And again. Still straight to voicemail. My throat went dry. My hands shook. I called Dad next. He answered on the second ring. Dad. I said, breathless. What's going on? Why can't I see Mom's page? Why did I get removed from the family group? There was a pause. A long one. Too long. Then, click. He hung up. I messaged him immediately. Just one sentence. What did I do? Please, just tell me. It was marked read. But he never replied. I couldn't understand it. It felt like someone had reached into my chest and turned a switch, turning the warmth off. I kept thinking, this can't be happening. Not them. Not like this. But it was happening. And I had no idea why. I tried again, texted Emily. Left another voicemail. Even wrote an email to my aunt, trying to be polite. I typed and retyped it 4 times before settling on. Hi Aunt Liza, I hope you're well. I'm a little confused because I feel like I've been cut off from the family and I don't know why. I couldn't be at the wedding, and I'm so sorry, but I hoped you all understood it wasn't personal. Please let me know if I did something wrong. I got one reply that night. Not from her. It was a DM on Instagram, from my cousin Teresa. The kind of message that hits you in the gut before you even open it. You know what you did. That's all it said. I stared at those 5 words until they blurred. I reread them 10 times, hoping they'd rearrange themselves into something kinder. They didn't. A few days later, another message came, this time from a distant cousin I barely talked to. It said, honestly, it's better this way. Less drama. Better for who? I didn't even know there was drama. Each message cut deeper than the last. Like tiny paper cuts, invisible but sharp. I kept scrolling through my texts, emails, everything, searching for a clue. Had I accidentally said something offensive? Had I missed a call? Forgotten a birthday? I checked the calendar obsessively. I scrolled through old messages looking for sarcasm that might have been misread. A tone that might have been taken wrong. Nothing made sense. I thought about calling Mom. Just one more time. I stared at her contact for days. I typed out a text I never sent. I don't know what I did. But I love you. And I miss you. Please talk to me. But what was the point? She'd blocked me. The silence grew louder with every day that passed. It followed me into work meetings, into the grocery store, into the shower. I'd be brushing my teeth, and suddenly I'd hear Megan's voice in my head, laughing at one of my dumb jokes, and then I'd remember she hadn't returned a single message in 2 months. I stopped talking about it with my friends. I could see the discomfort on their faces every time I brought it up. Like they didn't know what to say. Like they couldn't understand how a family could just vanish you. But I felt it. I started to spiral. I lost sleep. I replayed every conversation I'd had with each family member over the last year. I reread every group text. I started second-guessing things I'd said 6 months ago. I even considered calling Emily's husband to ask if he knew anything. But what would I even say? "Hi, you don't know me very well, but your wife's family thinks I'm Satan, and I'd really like to know why." It got to the point where I genuinely started believing I must have done something unforgivable. I mean, no one ghosts their own daughter, cousin, or sister over nothing. Right? So maybe I was the villain. Maybe I'd become the selfish career-obsessed one they always warned each other about. Maybe I was that girl now, the one who missed the most important day of her cousin's life because a boardroom presentation was more important. I cried. A lot. But somewhere, buried beneath all that pain and guilt and confusion, a little voice started whispering. Something doesn't add up. It was quiet at first. Easy to ignore. But it got louder every time I saw another vague post. Cryptic status updates like, "Some people don't deserve second chances," or "Funny how the ones who disappear always pretend to be the victim." They were never tagged. Never named. But I knew. I knew they were about me. Still, something didn't sit right. The timing. The overreaction. The silence from people who once said they loved me no matter what. And then one night, I saw a photo that changed everything. But that's another part of the story. Because that's when I realized something didn't add up. It was late, well past midnight, when I found it. I was lying on my couch, wrapped in a soft, threadbare blanket that smelled faintly like lavender and the faint musk of old books. The room was dim, lit only by the glow of my phone screen and the muted orange street lamp light filtering through the sheer curtains. Outside, the city was quiet, save for the occasional distant honk or a cat yowling in the alley. My thumb was lazily scrolling through Instagram, mostly out of habit. I'd lost count of how many times I'd checked it that week, hoping for something. A sign, an explanation, anything. Then my breath caught. A new post on Emily's profile. It was a photo from her wedding. I recognized it instantly, the wide shot of the garden venue, the floral arch glowing under fairy lights, guests in elegant dresses and tuxes smiling, glasses raised in a toast. But the caption froze me in place. Shout out to Ashley, who couldn't bother to show up, but made time for her real family that same weekend. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I stared harder, my eyes scanning the post for something else, anything that might soften the blow. But below the caption was another image that felt like a dagger twisting deeper. It was a photo of me. Not one I'd ever posted. Me standing next to my boss, the woman who had been my godmother since I was 5, at that very work event I'd spent months preparing for. I was wearing my navy blazer, hair perfectly styled, smiling in a way that felt proud and confident at the time. Except now, all I saw was accusation. Someone had sent Emily that photo, complete with a twisted story, a narrative that painted me as someone who deliberately chose work over family. I could almost hear the whispers, "She didn't care enough. She abandoned us." But there was one problem. I never posted that photo. Never. I scrolled back through my own social media accounts, double-checking every upload and story. Nothing remotely like it. So, who did? The question gnawed at me all night. I couldn't sleep. My mind raced, piecing together fragments like a puzzle whose edges refused to fit. The next morning, armed with nothing but my gut and a resolve I barely knew I had, I started digging. I messaged a few people who had been tagged in the wedding photos, casually asking if they had seen any posts about me. Most gave polite but vague answers, clearly uncomfortable. Then, a close friend of Emily's sent me a direct message, hesitant at first, but then blunt. "You should know. There's a lot of chatter about you. People think you snubbed the family for your career. It's not just Emily. It's everyone. My heart sank. Everyone? Then I found it. A private chat between Megan and another cousin. I froze as I read the words typed with cruel precision. Ashley's so full of herself. Always playing the victim. She thinks she's better than us. Guess it's no surprise she skipped the wedding. And worse. I sent Emily that photo from the event, the one with her godmother. Told her you were too busy with your real family. Let's see how long she stays fooled. My hands trembled. I reread the message 3 times, disbelief and betrayal swelling inside me like a storm. Megan. My sister. The person I'd trusted most in the world. The woman who had smiled at me at family dinners, who once whispered secrets in my ear late at night when we were kids, had been quietly, deliberately stirring this poison behind my back. I could almost see her now, sitting there with that fake smile, her eyes cold and calculating, while she typed those words. Why? Jealousy. That's what it boiled down to. I knew Megan had wanted that promotion too. She'd hinted at it more than once, complaining about how she was always overlooked and how people never took her seriously. And while I tried to keep the peace, to avoid stepping on her toes, it was clear she'd decided to make me the scapegoat. The betrayal cut deeper than the silence ever did. Because silence, while painful, can at least be healed. It can be confronted. But this? This was deception. This was sabotage. I closed my eyes, biting my lip until it bled just a little. The air felt thick, like I was trapped in a fog of disbelief and anger. I wanted to scream at her, to ask why she had done this. Why she'd turn the family against me just to get ahead. But instead, I sat there in my dim apartment, feeling smaller and more alone than ever. The sister I'd loved, who should have been my ally, was the architect of my downfall. And the worst part? No one else knew. Not Emily. Not Mom. Not Dad. Only Megan held the truth. I realized then, I was standing at a crossroads. I could either let this betrayal destroy me, or I could fight back. I wasn't going to beg anymore. That's the moment everything shifted. The day I stopped crawling on my knees, pleading for scraps of love and attention that were never coming my way. Because after months of silence, cold shoulders and whispered rumors, I realized begging only made me smaller. Invisible. Less than the sister, the daughter, the cousin I had once been. No, I wasn't going to beg. I was going to get smart. The plan started small but quickly snowballed into something I never thought I'd be capable of. I sat at my cluttered kitchen table, papers and sticky notes scattered around me, half-empty coffee cups growing cold, my laptop humming quietly like a lifeline. The late afternoon sunlight was fading behind the buildings, casting long shadows across the floor. I could hear the distant rumble of traffic outside, the faint chatter of neighbors going about their evenings, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing inside my head. I opened every message I'd saved, texts from Megan, cryptic emails from relatives, voicemail transcripts I'd painstakingly typed out. Each one was like a thread pulling me through the tangled web of lies and betrayal. There were the texts, Ashley's too full of herself, she doesn't deserve our family. Emails with vague accusations, maybe it's better if she stays away, she's only ever caused trouble. Voicemails where Megan's voice was unmistakably cold and sharp, cutting me down even over the phone. I gathered every one of them, every cruel word, every sly jab, and compiled them into one neat, undeniable package. But I didn't send them straight to Megan. No. I sent them anonymously to key family members I thought might still want the truth. People who deserved to hear what was really going on behind the scenes, away from all the gossip and lies. I waited. And then I waited some more. Days passed. Weeks. Some recipients responded quietly, tentatively. Others didn't reply at all. But little by little, the pieces began to move. Still, that wasn't enough. If I wanted the world to know my side, I had to be the one to tell it. So I did what felt terrifying at first. I went public. I launched a podcast episode titled, A Story About Being Falsely Exiled. I poured my heart into it. Every word was raw and real, the confusion, the heartbreak, the betrayal. I described growing up as the quiet one in a loud family, the hurt of being cut off without explanation, and the crushing discovery of Megan's betrayal. I didn't mention names outright, but left enough clues that anyone paying attention could piece it together. Recording the episode was cathartic, but also scary. My hands trembled as I pressed record. My voice cracked on a few takes. I stared at the microphone, feeling exposed, but I kept going. When it finally went live, I held my breath. Would anyone listen? Would anyone care? The response blew me away. The episode went viral, not just in my small town, but across social media platforms where people shared their own stories of family betrayal and false accusations. Comments poured in, messages from strangers who'd felt the same pain, the same loneliness. People were talking. More importantly, people were listening. And then, the ripple hit home. Megan's boss heard the podcast. Suddenly, the quiet jealousy, the whispers behind my back, became headline news in the office where she worked. Her reputation took a nosedive. She didn't just lose face, she lost her job. The family I'd thought I'd lost began to fracture in unexpected ways. Calls started coming. First, my phone buzzed with a message from Mom. It wasn't a text. It was a video, Mom, sitting on her porch, tear-streaked and shaky, her voice thick with regret. "Ashley," she said, eyes red-rimmed, "I'm so sorry. I was wrong. We all were. I missed you. Please, can we talk?" I stared at the screen, heart pounding. For a moment, I felt the old ache, the desire to forgive, to go back to the way things were. Then came the voicemail from Dad. He sounded lost, stumbling over his words like a man trying to find footing on shifting ground. "Ash, I don't know what to say. I'm sorry for letting things get this far. I hope you can forgive us." The apologies poured in, sometimes awkward, sometimes heartfelt. But by then, the damage was done. The years of silence, the lies, the betrayal, they couldn't be undone overnight. And neither could the walls I'd built around myself. I realized something essential in those moments. I was finally done shrinking for people who didn't value me. Done hiding who I was to make them comfortable. Done pretending that their rejection was a reflection of my worth. Because it wasn't. It was theirs. That night, as I sat back on my couch, the weight of everything settling around me, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Power. Not the cruel kind Megan thought I had. But the kind that comes from owning your truth and refusing to let others define you. And just as I was about to close my eyes and breathe easy for the first time in months, my phone buzzed again. A new message. From Megan. They wanted to silence me. I remember that feeling so clearly, the weight of their judgment pressing down like a heavy, suffocating fog. It was in the cold shoulders, the pointed whispers, the way the family dinners stopped coming, the texts left unanswered, the messages I never got back. Like I'd become a ghost in the story of my own family. For a long time, I thought their silence was the end of the story. That I was broken beyond repair, discarded for missing one wedding, for choosing my career, for simply being me. But silence didn't break me. It made me louder. I didn't just sit and wait for their acceptance. I rebuilt my life, brick by brick, with my own hands. It started small. The occasional coffee with a coworker, a text from a friend I'd almost forgotten, a late-night call with someone who actually listened. Those little connections became lifelines. Slowly, I built a new family. A chosen family. New friends who celebrated me without conditions, who didn't judge me for my decisions or my past. People who saw me, not the quiet one, not the outcast, but Ashley. I remember one night, sitting in my tiny apartment, the air thick with the scent of jasmine candles, the soft hum of indie music playing in the background. I was surrounded by friends, laughing, sharing stories, and for the first time in ages, feeling like I belonged. I looked around at their faces, bright, warm, real, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years, hope. And then came the promotion. The one Megan had coveted, the one I thought was slipping through my fingers because of family drama. But it wasn't. It was mine. I walked into that office on the day I got the call with a quiet confidence I hadn't known before. My boss, my godmother, smiled at me, not as a family proxy but as a proud mentor. "Congratulations, Ashley. You earned it," she said, and I believed her. That moment, holding the promotion letter in my hands, was more than just a career milestone. It was a declaration. I no longer needed their validation. Their opinions, their acceptance. It didn't define me anymore. But I won't lie. Sometimes, when my phone buzzes and the screen lights up with Mom, my heart still flutters. It's like an old ache, a familiar tug. I hesitate. Do I answer? Do I let the past back in? I wonder. Do they really regret what they did? The silent exile, the whispered betrayals, the years of cold shoulders? Or do they just miss the version of me who kept saying sorry? The version who shrank herself, who swallowed her pride to keep the peace, who begged for scraps of affection like they were the air she needed to breathe. Because that Ashley, the quiet, apologetic one, is gone. One thing's for sure, I won't be her again. Not ever. I'm done shrinking. Done hiding. Done apologizing for simply existing. Because I've learned that sometimes, the hardest battles are the ones we fight within ourselves. And this time, I've finally won.